Yeah, if you look at Nifty, a bit of disappointment, I would say, the way index is corrected, and this is going to be the second week or consecutive week of negative returns from Nifty, and despite the gains that we have seen yesterday and today, finally closing with gains of 55 points maybe, or 50 points. We'll have to wait for it to settle really, but Nifty Bank is up 250 points, again off day's high. If you look at mid cap and small cap though, they have relatively managed to hold on to their gains, but both these indices were also up between 1.25% to 1.5%. So they have also come off the day's high really. If you look at some of the key index movers and see which stocks have really helped the Nifty today, Cipla, HDFC, Maruti, Tata Motors. So we clearly have Sun Pharma also, which means pharma is doing well, and so is banking. ICICI Bank is doing well, auto is doing well. So these are a few sectors which have really helped. Some of the heavyweights that didn't quite participate in the up move would probably be RIL1, which is closing with gains of just about 1%. L&T has not participated at all, and among banks, Axis Bank has surprisingly been a non-mover today. That's interesting. At the bottom, and this is a sustained trend since morning. Even with the first tick, we saw IT stocks at the bottom, Wipro, TCS and Infosys. They closed the day at the bottom as well.
There were a lot more gainers from the broader markets. However, the benchmarks closed off day's high, and clearly Nifty Realty was the top sectoral gainer, and all the realty stocks were in focus after the cabinet increased the carpet area for a couple of affordable housing schemes. So stocks like HDIL, look at that, that was up 6%. Actually, that rose just in the second half of the session. You also had DLF, which is also in the F&O space. That stock touched its fresh 52-week high. That too gained about 7%. A couple of small cap players from the same space, Kolte Patil, Ansal Housing, saw big gains. Kolte was up almost 12% today, closing at levels of 277. And you also had Ansal Housing, which closed the day with gains of 9%. While Shriram Transport was one of your biggest F&O gainer for the day, so that counter was active right from the start, closing the day with gains of nearly 6% coming about. Housing finance companies from the likes of Canfin Homes, and you also had LIC Housing, were up and about. Some bit of fresh buying was seen in these counters in today's trade. The logistics space was pretty active. Snowman Logistics gained today. That saw gains of almost 12%, and the gains actually just came in the last hour or last half an hour, as it is shown on the intraday chart on your screen. And new kids on the block, HDFC Life listed today, though the listing was just about muted, but it gained momentum during the day, finally closing the day with gains of 18.5%. And 5 Paisa listed yesterday. That counter was locked in lower circuit. It was down about nearly 5%. And 2 counters which we mentioned almost every single day, Rain Industries and HEG, once again were under pressure. Some bit of profit booking was seen there, Neeraj.
That's the sum and substance of what happened in day's trade, but let's just bring up the contributors list, and you will see that it was technology under pressure all through. It was completely dominated by technology on the downside, which negated any kind, tried to negate the moves that came in from some high beta names and heavyweights. So again, heavyweights dominating for a second in a row. Mind you, these are the same set of stocks that almost participated in trade yesterday. Heavyweights moving up, you typically have the markets doing well, but technology being a bit of a spoil sport in the session today. So Infosys couldn't quite do what it did in trade yesterday. And the market breadth, mind you, corrected in the latter half of trade. So we did come off somewhere during the start of the trading day. We had a very robust market breadth. We've ended with a bit of a narrowing of the market breadth. So close to 3:5 in favor of the advances. And yes, green dominates, but a bit of red started creeping in, a bit of a green started going away, which is, I think, actually the key highlight of today's session. Just bring up the weekly performance once and just show you what's happened to individual movers in the week, and you will see that it was a flat week for the benchmark indices. Maybe the Nifty Bank did reasonably okay, but Reliance Industries participated, Kotak Bank participated, and as I said, banks did well. So Kotak Bank, ICICI Bank, a couple of names. Let's get the camera a bit closer. You see Kotak Bank, ICICI Bank, and to an extent State Bank of India. These were 3 names which did well, and amongst the losers, I think Bharti Infratel, Adani Ports, and to an extent oil and gas, ONGC in particular, which lost about 7%, negated any kind of gains that some of the others could have gotten in. So Weakish trade throughout the week, except for the last 2 days. But I must say, just a touch bit disappointed with how the day has closed today. On a big rating upgrade that you've gotten, one would have anticipated that some short covering and a few other moves would have led the index higher. But we actually closed almost 1/3% lower from where we were at the start of the trading day.